After the break, as thousands of fans descend on Prague, can West Ham make history tonight? Tonight, West Ham get ready for a showdown in Prague. The Hammers take on Fiorentina in the Europa Conference League final tonight. Victory would mean the side's first European silverware in almost 60 years.
Oh, it's amazing. It's waited too long.
I ain't got tickets, it's about being here. It's about being here with the West Ham family.
We're with around 20,000 West Ham fans in the Czech capital for the match, with reports of some scuffles with rival supporters. The latest on that too, also on the programme. On trial, the man accused of murdering police officer Matt Ratner inside a custody cell in Croydon 3 years ago. Redbridge Council steps up patrols to stop catcalling and wolf whistling, but will it be enough to end the harassment of women and girls? Plus,
it's not going so I've got trainers on this.
tapping his way back to the West End stage, Les Dennis joins a stellar cast on 42nd Street. Good evening. Could tonight be the night, after more than half a century of waiting, when West Ham bring home silverware from Europe? In less than 2 hours' time, they take on Italian side Fiorentina in the Europa Conference League final in Prague. There is a lot riding on tonight's match. Not only a trophy, but victory for David Moyes' side would also mean a place in next season's Europa League. The Czech capital has been flooded with as many as 20,000 West Ham supporters for the clash, but only a quarter of them have tickets. Extra policing is in place, and in the last few hours, several arrests have been made following reports of attacks on Hammers fans. More on that and on the build-up to what could be a momentous night. From Prague, Rags Martel reports.
They sing about blowing bubbles. But rarely have West Ham flown so high. Prague, the setting for their Europa Conference League final. But most of these fans aren't going to the game.
You got tickets? No. I ain't got tickets, it's about being here. It's about being here with the West Ham family. End of.
How disappointing is it not having a ticket?
Oh, silly disappointment, yeah. Yeah, really disappointed. Don't, because I could get emotional about it.
Outside the stadium, the song is the same, and so is the search for tickets.
We've just been offered tickets down there for £1,200. It's a lot of money.
And do you know if they're genuine?
No, we don't know if they're genuine. They could be fake, so we ain't taking a chance on that.
The Fortuna Arena is where the match will be played, a relatively small stadium for a European final. And West Ham have only been given around 5,000 seats, but many, many more have made the trip out here without tickets.
And the problem of getting in is dividing families.
You haven't got a ticket?
No.
She ain't.
I have, she ain't.
They've got tickets, but I ain't.
Your dad?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
I've been waiting for this moment a lot longer than that.
And there's criticism of UEFA on the Italian side too.
For me, it's a big mistake, and because in the final arrive West Ham with a big fan and Fiorentina with a big supporter.
Regardless of the tickets, every Hammer is aware it's been a long 58-year wait since their last European trophy.
What does this mean to a West Ham United fan?
Oh, it's amazing. It's waited too long.
Longer than you've been.
Yeah.
In the centre of the Czech capital, 250 extra police have been deployed for the final. The Met's football and policing unit is also here. As of the early afternoon, this was the only reported incident. Italian ultras allegedly attacking a bar where West Ham fans were drinking. Czech police later posted this photo saying they'd made 16 arrests. Keeping the harmony for the supporters, the singer Chesney Hawkes headlining at West Ham's fan park.
How big a day is this?
This is a massive day. I mean, huge for all of us, you know, West Ham fans, but in particular for me and my brother and my son. Come here, mate, come here. This is my boy Indy, so he's playing with me tonight. And so as you can see, we're all pretty massive West Ham fans. So last time we were in a European final was '76 when I was 5 years old, so that's how much it means to us. So we didn't know that we had tickets, but we've just found out that we're going to be going to the game.
The party got going this afternoon with another celebrity superfan, James Corden, also spotted in Prague. The mood tonight is of happy hammers. Only Fiorentina can burst their bubble now.
Rags is, of course, among all the action in Prague, and he sent us this just a few moments ago.
So with the 8 p.m. kickoff fast approaching, it's time for the talking to stop and the football to start. This will be West Ham's Field of Dreams tonight, a place where they can win their first major European trophy since 1965. Standing in their way, Fiorentina, the in-form side from Italy. They will be the strongest test West Ham will have faced all season in Europe. A win for West Ham will ensure another season of European football next year. This really is West Ham's biggest game in half a century. 90 minutes, which will decide if they'll be able to keep blowing their European bubbles, or a game which will see it burst for another generation.
Rags Martel reporting there from Prague, and you can find out just how West Ham do later on tonight after news at 10. Moving on to other news now, and the man accused of killing Metropolitan Police officer Matt Ratner had an antique revolver hidden in an underarm holster, a court has heard. Sergeant Ratner was shot dead at a custody block in Croydon nearly 3 years ago. Zoyser is on trial for his murder, which he denies. Sam Holder has been following the case and sent this report.
Matt Ratner was just months from retirement, a police sergeant with 30 years of service. He was killed inside Croydon police station where he worked, shot dead in the custody suite by a suspect. Louis de Zoyser was 23 at the time. He had a gun hidden on his body, an antique revolver he'd bought online. He created his own homemade bullets. Some of those bullets had been found by officers during a stop and search, along with some cannabis. That's why he'd been transferred to the police station. But they did not find the gun. After leaving the police van and being led to the suite, he fired 3 shots in 3 seconds, despite being handcuffed. 2 hit Sergeant Ratner, 1 hit the wall. A 4th caused de Zoyser injuries, including brain damage, and has left him using a wheelchair and needing to write his answers in court on a whiteboard. The prosecution say Matt Ratner was murdered, that de Zoyser pulled the trigger on purpose. The defence say, in their words, it was because de Zoyser, who has autism, suffered a meltdown, which caused him to fire the gun. A big question here is how de Zoyser managed to bring a gun into the heart of Croydon Police Station, into the custody suite, without it being found. The jury was shown footage of his arrest, of the police finding those homemade, handmade bullets. In total, 2 police officers search him for around 13 minutes, but don't manage to find that antique gun that he had hidden. They ask him multiple times if he has anything on him that could cause them harm, and they tell him off pretty strongly after warning him 3 times about trying to put his hands in his pockets. And actually, at the end of the footage of his arrest, it's clear that the officers aren't totally comfortable, because they can both be heard on tape saying that they don't trust him. Again, de Zoyser denies intentionally killing Sergeant Ratner.
All right, Sam in Northampton for this trial. Thank you. A Surrey council has declared effective bankruptcy over a £1.2 billion hole in its budget caused by extreme levels of borrowing. Woking Borough Council declared that it is unable to meet its budgetary requirements in the coming years. Essential council spending has been halted. The Liberal Democrats have run the council since 2022, taking over from the Conservatives who managed investments in the council before them. Next tonight, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, has apologised for the force's past homophobic persecution. He is the first UK police chief to do so. Kath O'Patter is at New Scotland Yard for us tonight. And Kath, this was in a letter from the boss of the Met. Give us some more detail on that.
I mean, it's a truly historical moment, particularly for the LGBT plus community who've been fighting for an apology for years, and now they finally have one. In Sir Mark Rowley's letter, he acknowledged the decades of appalling behaviour from the police, adding that, "I am clear that there is much for us to do. I am sorry for all of the communities we have let down, for the failings of the past, and look forward to building a new Met for London, one all Londoners can be proud of, in which they can have confidence." Now, it's important to understand how we got here and what life was like for LGBT plus people in the 80s, but rather than hear it from me, it's better coming from a gay man who lived through that time. His name is Peter Tatchell, and he's one of the people who've been campaigning for this apology.
Police raided gay clubs and bars, private birthday parties. They arrest LGBT plus people leaving gay venues. They pushed and shoved them. We were treated like criminals, which of course we were, but in a way that was way beyond what the law said.
So far, the Met is the only force in the country to have issued an apology for this behaviour. And Peter Tatchell, who you just heard from, said he welcomes it, but he's hoping that it encourages other forces in the UK to do the same.
All right, Kath at New Scotland Yard, thank you. Still to come on the programme. The first heat alert of the summer. Sally has the forecast for the coming weekend, and
I mean, it's not going so long, so I've got trainers on this.
Les Dennis tapping his troubles away on 42nd Street. But first, catcalling, wolf whistling, being followed, or verbal and even physical harassment. These are things the vast majority of women and girls will have experienced in everyday life. Or Redbridge Council say they are trying to do something about it with a new campaign called This Has to Stop. Helen Keenan is here to tell us more. Helen, what's it all about?
Well, they were already carrying out safety campaigns, but these became much more prominent following the death of Zara Alina, who was murdered in Ilford last year. Now, after that, they carried out a survey of thousands of women in the area to find out what harassment they had suffered and what more they could do to help. So, since last December, they have become the first London borough to fine a man £100 for sexual harassment using the council's public space protection order, and that's to enforce against catcalling and harassment. So today we went and joined them out on patrol. Followed, sexually assaulted and murdered. Last year, news of Zara Alina's death in Ilford exacerbated fear amongst women in the area.
Women were saying, we want you to deal with the small stuff, we want you to deal with the wolf whistling, the catcalling, before it becomes the big stuff, before women are getting hurt.
Police have announced a public space protection order, making the verbal harassment of women in Ilford and Redbridge an offence, with the power to hand out fines. How many fines have you handed out?
I think there have been a number of fines of the enforcement of the public space protection order, but I know of two specifically in recent weeks that have been specifically for catcalling.
Today we joined one of their patrols in the town centre.
This is a street safe crime prevention leaflet that we are giving it to older people, women and young children as well, to protect them and keep them safe on the street.
Have you witnessed any catcalling, handed out fines?
I haven't personally, but I know that has happened, and with the assistance of our colleagues, which are the Reg Bridge Enforcement Officers, we're able to issue tickets to, one, educate people, because sometimes the community don't realise it's an offence, and two, to deter other men from doing so.
So how often are you going to do patrols like this?
Patrols are done daily.
They surveyed almost 2,000 women in the area about their experiences of harassment on the street. Over 90% had been catcalled, and around 60% said they had been followed by a man. 45% said they had suffered verbal aggressive harassment, and 25% said they'd been touched without their consent. Sophie and Shana are helping with the campaign. They were verbally abused while putting up posters for it.
If that sort of low-level stuff is seen as acceptable, people are just going to kind of take it further and further. And I think, like I was saying about it makes you conscious of your own safety. You then worry that if you say something or you kind of call people out for this behaviour, then is it going to escalate even more?
Zara Alina lost her life here. Did you feel more concerned for your safety after that?
Definitely. I think it made me scared for myself and for my family. I have 2 younger sisters.
Is that why campaigns like this are quite close to your heart and you think are important?
So important, and I think what's special about this one is that women are finally not being told what we need to do. It's really finally targeting the perpetrators.
This is the only London borough to have an order like this in place. If it works, the initiative could be rolled out across the capital. Helen Keenan, ITV News.
Now, my guest tonight says he grew up feeling ashamed because of the way British history is taught in schools. The journalist and author of the critically acclaimed Empireland, Satnam Sanghera, is now making it his mission to educate children about the British Empire and to fill in what he calls the missing gaps with his new book, Stolen History. And I'm delighted to say that he joins me now. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me about this.
Nice to be here.
It's great to have you here. Listen, without giving too much away, we're similar age. We were taught the same curriculum back at school. Tell me about these missing gaps.
Yeah, I mean, I was taught almost nothing about empire. But also, when we were taught about the classic things like World War I and World War II, it wasn't mentioned that millions of troops from Africa and India had fought in those world wars, even though we were an incredibly racially diverse school. So not only do we need to teach about empire, which was the biggest thing we ever did as a country, but actually we need to make it central to the stories we already tell about ourselves.
Now, your book, Empireland, re-examines exactly that, Britain's imperial past, how it shapes our present. But this new book, Stolen History, of course, it's aimed at children. It's so complex, isn't it? Where do you begin when it comes to telling children about this history through a different perspective?
It's complex, but also I think kids are better at absorbing it than adults who might have very strong prejudices about this subject. So one of the key things I want to convey is that we are a multicultural country today because we had a multicultural empire. And if we understood that, things like the Windrush scandal would never have happened, because we wouldn't have deported British citizens to countries they don't know.
And you're exactly right when you say this is where you start. You start with children, don't you? And you were actually at school today in Upton Park. What was your reaction there?
Oh, they were amazing kids, but they also ask very strange questions like, how much money do you make? And which football team do you support? Things like that.
Is
not
it
related
West
to empire. No, they don't support West Ham, even though they're very near the home of West Ham.
I want to talk about, I mean, it's interesting that we're talking about children now and how you're getting those responses from kids today. But it is very much about how our past informs the present. Now, only this year in Tottenham, we saw Black Boy Lane renamed as La Rose Lane after the poet because of the links to the slave trade. But even that, which this is when it happened in February this year, even that divided opinion. And there is still this, as you say, this level of resistance, isn't there, to learning about those particular links with history and why things are around us as they are.
I think the key thing to combat this is to tell people or make them realise that opposite things can be true. So, yeah, we were deep into the slave trade and dominated the slave trade for large periods, but we also abolished slavery. Empire explains our multiculturalism, our wonderful diversity, but it also explains our racism to a small degree. Someone like Gandhi was an amazing man who took on empire, but also he took part in anti-black racism. The people involved with empire was complex, and the history was complex, and I feel like kids understand that better than adults sometimes.
Let's hope so. Listen, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, Satnam Sanghera. Thank you so much. Stolen History, I believe, is out tomorrow.
It's out tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Some other news now, and the Princess of Wales showed off her rugby skills on a trip to Maidenhead today. Kate, who is the patron of the Rugby Club Union, met with players at Maidenhead Rugby Club and enjoyed a game with local and national players. The visit is part of her campaign to get more children outside and playing sport. And Big Ben is set to welcome back visitors next month. Tickets will be on sale next week and tourists will be able to tackle the 334 steps of the Elizabeth Tower in time for the clock to chime on the hour. Some showbiz now, and legendary entertainer Les Dennis returns to the London stage tonight in a brand new production of the toe-tapping Broadway classic 42nd Street. The show also features a number of rising young stars and plenty of tap dancing. Daniel Henry went backstage where he picked up a couple of moves himself.
We're here! A 5, 6, 7, 8!
When the sound of the stage hits the streets, all you can do is smile. 42nd Street is set during the Great Depression, but the performers behind it believe London's audiences will love it.
It is a huge showbiz musical about putting on a musical. So it's a show within a show. My character, Peggy Sawyer, is a small town girl in America that comes to New York to try and get her big break, which she does, and then she ends up having to step into the starring role of the show.
This is like a dream come true.
It
like
really is.
You're playing yourself, really.
Yeah, in a way, and it's amazing. It's honestly just the best feeling in the world. I'm so grateful, and I'm having the best time.
Tell me about tap dancing. Does it hurt?
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. I think when we first started, there were a few bruised feet. We always put our feet in ice buckets after the show just to help them cool down a little bit, because I think constant pounding on the floor can be a bit intense. But it's my favourite discipline of dance. I love it. I just love how you can move your foot once and make 5 beats. It's amazing.
Les Dennis is in it too. He's done a bit of everything over the years, but nothing quite like this.
It's the ultimate backstage Broadway musical, and it's about we're putting on a show.
I've not known you to tap dance before.
And you won't know me to tap dance again. I am absolutely in awe watching the ensemble and Sam and Nicole tap their hearts away. I do one little shuffle in a song called Shuffle Off to Buffalo. So there you go. It's just that. That's all you get from me.
So the kind of songs we're going to be hearing, We're in the Money.
You've got it. We're in the money.
The money.
Let's come on, a bit of tap.
I mean, it's not going somewhere, so I've got trainers on, Les.
There you go. You can do it. You can do it. Shuffle off to Buffalo with me. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Les. Good to see you.
Now, just to be clear, you won't be seeing me at Sadler's Wells. But if you want to see these guys doing what they do best, the show opens tonight and runs until the 2nd of July. Daniel Henry, ITV News.
Oh, he's got some moves, hasn't he? Now it seems that summer has finally landed. Sally is at Wisley Reservoir for us tonight. And Sally, just as things start to warm up, London gets its first heat alert of the summer.
I know we seem to go from one extreme to another, don't we? That is the nod to the fact that it could get to 30 degrees this weekend in London, possibly. And we've had a very dry May, so what a perfect time to introduce you to Wisley's giant water butt. This is the size of 43,000 garden water butts. And if we just carefully creep down here, I don't want to fall in. Don't say you would like me to. Put my hand in. Oh, I can tell you it is warm after the cold weather we've had. It's absolutely gorgeous. And look what's living in it. We've got some beautiful pictures here of these cute little moorhens with their little babies, with their little bald heads. They're just gorgeous. And we found 4 of them. Now listen, when I was here last year, this ground was brown. We've had extreme heat. We had below average rainfall, hosepipe bans. It was a bit of a nightmare, quite frankly. And so they've built this reservoir to help them. And I'm joined by Peter, who is the garden manager here. Peter, thank you so much for having us. You must be thrilled with it.
Yeah, we're so happy with how it's turned out. It's looking so good at the moment.
And just to reassure people, the water doesn't come from a river, does it? It comes from where exactly?
Oh no, so we collect all the water as rainwater from the building we've got just behind us, our large science building that we've built.
And that all flows into here.
Yeah, we collect about 7,500 cubic metres of water.
And just rainfall has filled that up from
Yeah.
your roof. That's amazing. How much rain anxiety do you get here at Wisley?
We get as much as all the gardeners in the country do, and because we've had quite a dark, dry couple of weeks, we're starting to feel a little bit anxious and seeing some of the plants start to look a little bit stressed.
Oh, really?
But it's not quite as bad as it was last year yet.
Because I already get rain anxiety. It's quite a stressful time. But you've already started to take water out of here. We've got some lovely pictures of the garden that it's watering. Tell us where it goes.
So yeah, we created this lake so that we could look at our water security and help protect our plants on Battleston Hill. We've got a really old ericaceous woodland that we're trying to keep going.
And just to reassure people that as this gets used, you're not going to completely empty it, are you?
No, no, we're going to let it go down to about 50, 60 centimetres, and that'll leave enough water for all the wildlife, which has already started to colonise the area.
Well, we've seen the beautiful moorhens. Listen, Peter, thank you so much. Good luck with your rainfall this summer, whichever way you want it to go. Now, yesterday, I was wearing a coat, hat and scarf in the studio, and look at me now. Living the high life. Here's the weather.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Well, that sunshine is strong, feel the burn, but we've got another lovely day for you tomorrow, fine and dry, still some lingering cloud, particularly in the morning and in a few spots such as the coast, but when that sun comes out, it's lovely and warm. And if we take a look at the pressure chart, you can see we have got a bit of a change coming. High pressure starts to move away, low pressure moves up from the south, and we could get some thundery showers on Saturday and Sunday, but we're also drawing in this warmer air. It's getting hotter, more humid, could get up to 30 degrees over the weekend. We'll keep you posted. But as for this evening, well, I hope you've got some sunshine as well, but from the north and the east, there is more cloud moving in. It's going to fill in all the gaps overnight, so a cloudy end to the night. Temperatures dropping down to high single figures, maybe double figures in the towns and cities. So tomorrow gets off to a slightly cool start without the sunshine and with a fair bit of cloud around, but once again the sunshine will nibble away at it. We'll start to see some blue sky emerging as we go through the day, and of course the sun. Now at the coast it might be a bit more stubborn to shift that cloud, and a little bit cooler there with that northeasterly coming in, but inland we could get up to highs of 23 to 24, so feeling very pleasant. And into the evening, well, a nice one to come again with some lovely evening sunshine. A similar story for Friday, but things do turn a bit more unsettled into the weekend and warmer. Here's the pollen.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
Now that pollen is a bit of a nightmare, quite frankly. Very high levels over the next few days with the early June peak and of course the fine weather. We've got grass pollen and nettle pollen now as well. But from me, the giant water butt and everything in it, I'll see you later. Cheerio.
Thanks, Sam. That's your weather, and that is it from us. Mary is back with the ITV Evening News at 6:30, but from me and all of the London team, bye-bye. Enjoy your evening.